Welcome to the Dragon's Library. Today I'm going to be covering The Lord of Chaos, chapters 14 to 30, which I read through this week. And if you'd like more fantasy and sci fi videos in your life, hit the sub button and the notification bell down below to get notified whenever I post new videos. Comment down below and tell me your favorite Wheel of Time character. I'll respond to all your comments. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get right into this, starting with the summary of chapter 14. In chapter 14, at the start of it, we're in Chiron with Egwene, but she's not physically walking around, she's in the world of dreams. We learn that you can get dragged into the dreams of somebody that holds extreme feelings for you, whether it be love or hatred, and this happens to Egwene when in the world of dreams. She gets dragged into Gawain's dream because Gawain is very, very much so in love with Egwene. And then we see a sequence of Gawain becoming her warder in a dream. Of course, this isn't physically happening. And then them kissing and having romance. And then we jump to later out of the dream. But before we do that, we jump to Nynaeve, and Nynaeve is down here in Saladar, in the Aes Sedai camp that's in Saladar. So Nynaeve and Elaine, they end up getting woken up by chairs and all the items in the room and blankets attacking them because of a bubble of evil. And then Nynaeve and Egwene hurry up and save as many accepted as possible, and then make it out to a group of Aes Sedai. The Aes Sedai order them to link with her, so they link with her for a whole hour while going through the town, trying to stop as many of these inanimate objects from the bubble of evil as possible to save lives. After that, Nynaeve gets sent back immediately because holding Sidar for an hour is extremely straining on the body. After that, we jump to Egwene again, back in Kyrian. So we're back up here. This is now chapter 15. We jump to her waking up from Teleron Riyadh with these headaches that she's been getting ever since Moraine died. And Egwene goes back to sleep and she sees some sort of, if I had to take a guess, this is probably some sort of foreshadowing, though I know not for what. She sees Heron with a wolf at his feet, a falcon on one shoulder, and a hawk on his other shoulder. And then right after that, she sees Matt speaking Old Tongue with ravens on both of his shoulders. For you guys, I would imagine you might know what this means if you've read through farther than I have, but I do not know what this is, but I would imagine it's foreshadowing of some extent. We learn that on page 70, okay, on page 370 in my edition, this is when we actually learn that you can be dragged into the dream. I mentioned it earlier as it relates to what happened earlier. After she has the conversation with the wise ones about the dream and learns that you can be dragged into somebody's dream if you extremely love or hate them, we jump to Elaine back down in Salidar. And then from her, we learn that there is at least 100 soldiers dead and seven Aes Sedai, seven of the people in the Aes Sedai camp dead. Not after that, we jump to Nynaeve and Elaine. They go into a meeting with the Aes Sedai and they tell them about the Terangrial in Ibudar that has the ability to control the weather. After that conversation, we immediately jump to their punishment because Nynaeve got really heated in a fight with the Aes Sedai. So they got sentenced to having to scrub the pots and pans for like 3 months. And then lastly, we jump to Shiriam, confirming some of the things that Nynaeve mentioned, like how they're scared of Rand and scared of the Dark Friends and stuff, which Nynaeve was yelling at them for and why they wouldn't let them leave to go help find the item in Ibudar. Okay, now we are going into chapter 16. In chapter 16, we are in Aemlyn here. Aemlyn. And Rand is meeting with the four High Lords that were the ones supporting Morghese, and they have a conversation over Rand wants to let Elaine take power once they can find her, and then tries to get the other lords to believe him. I think they at least slightly do, but they definitely are not completely competent in him. They do not think he's competent enough to find her, nor do they think he's lenient enough to let her take power. Later in the chapter, after the four lords leave, or well, three of the four lords leave, he talks to High Lord Dylan alone and learns that his mother is Tigraine, the daughter heir prior to Morghese, who had disappeared one random evening. This also makes Galad Rand's half brother, though I don't think that that's going to come into play. After he's done with that, after the last High Lord leaves, an emissary arrives from Ilion, which is Samuel's emissary, so he's one of the Forsaken's emissary, and tries to offer a truce to Rand, so Rand will go after the other Forsaken first. Rand declines this truce, and then the emissary from Samuel blows up, just in pieces everywhere, and just dies on the spot. After that, Rand pretty much immediately goes to get Avienda to get ready to leave for Kyrian, and then he uses a waygate. So he has a waygate here, and then this waygate takes him to Kyrian with no travel time. After making it to Kyrian, Rand immediately goes to talk with Barrelane and Ruark, which are the two he set in charge, Barrelane being the main one in charge, then Ruark being like the vice president of Kyrian, because Rand is currently trying to deal with the problems in Camelin. After talking with them, he learns that the younger generation of the Chiron nobles, so like the nobles' daughters and sons, are taking on a twisted form of Giotto, where they are treating things under Giotto, but there's certain parts of Giotto they're not taking on, like not using a sword. They are using swords in training and everything like that. So there's certain parts that there's twisting that makes Ruark very angry because it's not Giotto in the traditional sense. If it was Giotto in the traditional sense, Ruark would happily welcome them, which he says to Rand and Barrelane as they kind of get in an argument over it. After that, Rand, Barrelane, and Ruark go into a private room, and then one of the Aiel from the Stone of Tyr, one of the first Aiel Rand met, he has to sentence to death because he killed an innocent guy over a tattoo, which he believed to be copying one of the Aiel clan chief's tattoos, the dragon on over the hand that they get up the arm after they come out of the challenge in the wasteland. Now we're moving on to chapter 18. We continue from where the last chapter left off. Rand is finishing up his conversation with Barrelane and Ruark. After he finishes that conversation with them, he heads to one of his schools that he wants to keep information at because he knows the world's gonna break again. He wants to try and preserve as much information as possible, so he made schools in the major cities he controls. He goes to one of those schools in Kyrian, and there he sees some inventions and stuff the kids were making. Some of the inventions that are shown, or at least described, are a printing press, a plow pulled by horses, and a telescope. After that, he talks to a philosopher about Tarmangaden and some of the other places that the Dark One controls. The philosopher believes that Tarmangaden cannot be the place where the last battle will be fought. He thinks that it has to be somewhere else because he thinks that the seal has to be fully repaired again by the time when they make it through that age. So he feels that the last battle cannot take place there because something has to happen to the Dark One's prison that can't happen if the last battle's there. After Rand's conversation with the philosopher, we jump to Egwene back in Kyrian here, which Rand's also still in Kyrian, but now we're in Egwene's perspective. Egwene waits for Rand in his room, trying to convince him to get permission from the Wise Ones to go back to Teleron Riyadh, because right now they've been restricting her access to Teleron Riyadh because they feel she's not healthy enough to go into Teleron Riyadh. After that, we kind of go back to, well, we go to one of his Aiel guards' perspectives, and we hear her talking to herself and hear some of her thoughts about the maiden's general perspective on Rand. And we learn that they want to protect Rand because he's the only son of a maiden that they really know, because if a maiden has a child, they only have two options given to them, both seen as honorable. One is giving the child to a wise one so they can be adopted by another Aiel, because if you're a maiden, you're not allowed to know your child. And the other option is giving up the spear to raise your child. If you leave the maidens, well then their child's no longer a son of the maidens. Franz is a special case where his mother died a maiden and kind of died as he was being born. So he's the only child of a maiden that's known to be a son of the maidens, because there's only two other things that can happen. One, they're not a maiden any longer, or their son's adopted and or son or daughter's adopted and they have no idea what happens to them. Okay, now we're going to get into chapter 19. In chapter 19, we hear of four prophecies from the wise ones via Avienda. Three of these were done by two wise ones. The fourth one was done by all three and is majorly important. The first of the three prophecies as it was done by Melaine and Bear. The wise ones dreamed of Rand on a boat with three women and a scale going back and forth. The second prophecy was dreamed of by Melaine and Amis, and they dreamed of a man holding a dagger to Rand's throat, which man Rand could not detect. Rand believes this to be a gray man, a dark friend of kinds, where he sells his soul to the dark one, so even if you were staring at him, you cannot sense him any longer. The third prophecy from Bear and Amis is dreamed of Rand cutting the wetlands in two with a sword. And then the final prophecy, I'm going to read a word for word. I think this is talking about the Terangrial that was discussed being in Ibudar. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and start this. Rain coming from a bowl. There are snares and pitfalls around the bowl. If the right hands pick it up, they will perhaps find a treasure as great as the bowl. In the wrong hands, the world is doomed. The key to finding the bowl is in one who is no longer. After that, we jump to Avienda, and we kind of see how she has toe towards Rand and Elaine, and she kind of explains why she thinks she has this toe. And then toe is kind of like a currency for actions. They believe if somebody's helped you or done something for you, you have to repay it. And this is a part of Gia toe, but that is just a very dumbed down explanation of what Gia toe is. Next, we go into chapter 20, where we have three Ogier arriving into Camelin to talk with Rand. These three Ogier are Loyal's mother, him betrothed, and Loyal's teacher. After they arrive and start talking with Rand, they ask where Loyal's location is. Rand says that he'll give the location to them after they help him find the way gates. They also explain to Rand another reason, which is Loyal is has a high chance of dying soon if they don't take him back because of an ogier disease called the longing. The disease, the longing, is an effect on the ogier, and the longer they're away from the steading, the more likely they are to die. The max recorded time of being okay is 10 years, but those that came close to that 10 years died a year or two after making it back to the steading. So the sooner Loyal gets back, the better, because he's already been out of the steading for half of that time, which is 5 years. After that, they go through the maps and discuss where all the waygates are at. We learn that there's a waygate outside of every Ogier steading, and there's also a waygate where any of the cities that the ogre built are. So cities such as Camelin or Manetherin, which is a city that used to be where the Two Rivers currently is, which is why there's a waygate there. After that sequence, they discuss whether they're going to help Rand go to Shatter Logoth and seal the waygate. They decide to because Rand says after they help him in Shatter Logoth, he'll take them directly to the Two Rivers via a gate made of Sidene. After this, because the women are kind of harassing Haman, which is Loyal's teacher, Haman says, "Women do not become exhausted; they only exhaust others," which I thought was a funny phrase from him. Now we move into chapter 21, where they actually go into Shatter Logoth. The three Ogier, and then 40 Aiel come with Rand. And then after they make it to the Waygate, Rand puts a trap on the Waygate for Shadow Spawn, where after they come through, like a poison effect will have on them, where they'll not be able to make it out of the city because they'll die before they can make it to the gate, but they won't die right at the gate because it's not an insta killing spell. It's a poison like effect from it. During the process of going through Shatter Logoth, they lost an Aiel that he was very close with called Leah. He tried looking all over the city for her, and but they couldn't find her and they had to assume her dead because they could not stay in Shatter Logoth during the night. After they searched, Rand opened up a gate before it got dark into the Two Rivers to take the Ogier there, and then the Aiel also came through. And then he pretty much tells the ogres, "You guys can head that way to the Two Rivers, but I kind of have to go. I'm not going to stay here." And then he takes the Aiel and him back to the castle in Camelin via another gate. Next, in chapter 22, we jump to Matt's perspective, and Matt is right here. He's about halfway between Arengale and Tyr because he left from a city right next to Arengale. There's a little city like right in there that he left from, and they're on their way to Tyr. During this process, they find a dead camp of Tuathawan, which are the people that used to be Aiel, but they have forsaken all violence and won't even defend themselves. And in the camp, they find a half written message in blood that says, "Tell the dragon." If I had to take a guess, this also might be a form of foreshadowing, but I could be overthinking it. It could just be there for a sense of eeriness. I do not know. After that, Rand gets attacked via a gateway where a dozen Aiel come through. The Aiel are not normally against Matt, so he thinks these are most likely Aiel Dark Ones or the Shido, which are the Aiel that are against Rand and Matt. All the Aiel attacked, but Men was able to gather his men in time, so he was okay. But during the process of killing the 1 dozen or so Aiel, they lost roughly 2 dozen of Matt's men because the Aiel are extremely strong and hard to deal with. After that, the chapter pretty much ends with Matt just drinking with a few of the people from camp and trying to bury the dead. We jump to chapter 23, where we're following Grendel, one of the Forsaken. Grendel and Samael are having a conversation about the treaty, and then Samael is pretty much lying to Grendel's face, saying, "Rand accepted the treaty. Rand's not gonna attack me. You better be careful." And just pretty much trying to extort the location of some of the Forsaken to stop Rand from attacking her and instead make him attack another Forsaken, supposedly. Because as we know at this point, Rand did not accept that truce. So I'm like 90% sure Samael is just lying to Grendel. But there also could be something that happened to the messenger that Samael made him believe that he accepted the truce. Next, we jump to Egwene and Kyrian still. Egwene hears some rumors of events going on in other places around the world, such as Rand being forsaken in Camelin and the tower being split apart and at war. We know that the tower is split, but they are not at war, at least not in the current setting. Egwene sees Elida's emissary arrive in Kyrian with at least 6 Aes Sedai. We later learn that there is 2 reds and then 1 gray and 1 green. I don't think we know what the last two are, or actually not 1 gray, 1 white and 1 green. I don't think we know what the last two are. She runs back after seeing that there's 6 Aes Sedai, and then some orders to tell the wise ones that Elida's party was in the city. And then in chapter 25, we continue Egwene's perspective in Kyrian. Egwene leaves the Aes Sedai, or sorry, the Aiel tents to go to where the Aes Sedai are staying, to spy on the Aes Sedai via a spell she learned from a Moraine for eavesdropping. After that, she rushes away to hopefully not get caught. And then she runs into Gawain, and then they go to talk privately in a tavern, and they pretty much confess their love to each other, and she says she'll take him as her warder as soon as she can. And then after that scene of them kissing and having romantic feelings given to each other, we see the Aes Sedai talking about making some kind of backup plan and preparation. And then they're channeling something relatively massive because Egwene can feel it from a few blocks away. And then after that, we also learned that they detected the channeling that she was doing, though they didn't exactly catch her in the moment. They believe that it was Moraine Sedai, because they don't even know who she is. They think Moraine's still alive. They think Moraine faked her death. And then after that, we jump to chapter 26, where Rand is in Camelin. At the very start of the chapter, in chapter 26, Comes back from a training session with the soldiers where he was seeing the soldiers do some of their practicing on horses. He comes back into the city and nearly gets assassinated by a group of white cloak assassins on roofs. They were shooting crossbows down at him. One maiden of the spear, two mountain rangers or whatever their name is, two of the male Aiel, and then three bystanders died from the arrows getting shot down at Rand. Rand sentenced three of the four people he was able to catch to death, and then sent one of them with a message back to Padan Fane to tell Padan Fane that he better be prepared to get hanged. After that, we learn of an arriving group of sea folk and a wave mistress requesting a meeting with Rand. And then at the last part of the chapter, one of the High Lords comes to talk with Rand about some history of Andor because he requested it. We learned that Queen Ashara started the custom of sending the daughter heirs to the White Tower. We also learned that all the great houses are cousins by technicality if you go back hundreds of years. So they think of each other as cousins, even though they're not closely related. Rand was worried about this because he thought there was a potential for him to be related to Elaine, but thankfully he realizes that he is by no means related to her. Next is chapter 27, and we jump to Egwene meeting with Gawain again and telling her about the Aes Sedai looking for a supposed Green Sister, which we know that supposed Green Sister is Egwene. And then after that, he also tells her that they were heading to the palace very soon. Egwene immediately runs back and talks with Rand and tells him to be careful. After that, Rand puts her in a corner with like a cloak of Sidar to make her invisible, and then she stays in the corner to watch the meeting. Rand, during the meeting, pretty much tells them, I'm not ready to leave yet. You better not come back within a mile of me. You're risking danger to yourself. Pretty much lying to them because he does not want to be involved with the Elida's Aes Sedai, which are the Aes Sedai which are currently in the tower. Because Elida was a red sister, so there's a very good chance that they mean to harm him. After that, we jump to the Aes Sedai from the meeting, talking about how to lead Rand on with money and other things, and how to find the Green Sister that they believe to be Moraine. After that meeting with the Aes Sedai in chapter 28, we're still on Rand's perspective in Camelin. Rand goes back to the Camelin, and then he goes to his bedchambers. And then he is talking with his Aes Sedai guards, and then they see a gray man slip through. Or, well, don't see. Until the gray man's right in front of his face, Rand nearly getting assassinated, but he's able to catch him with weaves of air. And then Mazrim Time, who had came through a gateway which Rand hadn't noticed yet, kills the gray man with the fireball. After that, Rand talks with Time about the end of the school and the accidental killing of the gray man. He had let go the fireball and couldn't stop it by the time Rand had caught him, because they were going to interrogate him, but they had accidentally killed him. Avienda scolds him for not properly understanding Giotto in the conversation with the Aiel guards. And then during the last bit of chapter 28, we jump to Padan Fane. And Padan Fane kind of learns of Randall Thor nearly getting assassinated by a gray man. And then he gets extremely angry because he wants to be the one to kill Randall Thor. He doesn't want the Dark Ones to take Althor from him. Now, in our second to last chapter that we're talking about today, chapter 29, Tom Merlin returns to Saladar. Elaine and Nynaeve discuss whether they should leave Saladar or not because of the things that are happening. And then towards the end of chapter 29, they wanted to go talk with Logain. And then Nynaeve goes in to kind of see what it looks like when there's a cut in the weave from when they're gentled. And Nynaeve discovers how to heal the gentling of a man and woman. And I have a little theory about this because later in chapter 30, she heals Swan and Liana, but Swan and Liana only got healed halfway. They can use the power again, but they are much weaker than before. And if I had to take a guess, she healed them the exact same way as she healed Time or not Time Logain. So if I had to take a guess, the reason that they are much weaker has to do with the proportion of the five weaves or the five powers that they're using. Because when she healed Mazrim Time, she used a lot more fire, which is a stronger element in males, whereas she used the same proportions in Suan and Liane. And I think that had she used more of the weaves that the women are strong with, such as water, that the healing of the gentling would have made them much closer to what their original strength was, but I could be wrong. After that, where she heals Swan, we jump to Swan chasing after Gareth Bryn and then trying to hold him with a weave of air, where she learns she can no longer use the weave of air at the strength she once could and realize that she was much weaker than what she once had been. And then we jump to Delana Sedai, and then we learn that she's a black sister, and there's another dark friend that she has to help pretend to be a sister. This dark friend also mentions someone called the Rangar. I don't know who that is, but if I had to take a guess, that's probably an important name for both the Black Sister and the Dark Friend she has to help to know who it is. Probably a stronger figure, though I don't think that they're a Forsaken. I think we've already heard all the Forsaken's names, but I could be wrong. Okay, and then now we are going to go ahead and talk about my predictions from the last one. Okay, my first prediction is that Rand will be attacked and nearly assassinated before the end of the book. This did not only happen once, this happened twice. He nearly got assassinated by the White Cloaks with the crossbow attack, and then he nearly got assassinated by the Gray Man. So that was a good prediction. Two is still possible, but we haven't heard any more information on it. In two was I believe the White Cloaks were intervene in Ilion. Three, the Weather Tie on Grial will play a major role in killing Samael. I still think that this will play a major role, and we got another hint towards this with the fourth prophecy mentioning the Weather Terangrial, or at least I believe that to be mentioning the Weather Terangrial and Ibudar. Number four, Nynaeve and Elaine and Brigitte will get attacked in Ibudar by the Forsaken. I still think this has a high probability of happening, but they haven't even left for Ibudar yet, and there's only 300 pages left, which is a lot, but I don't know if it will happen in this book. There's a chance it does not. Number four, okay, never mind. Number four is what I just read. Number five, there is going to be a battle between both factions of the Aes Sedai. I also still think this is going to happen, but I'm also unsure if this is going to happen in this book. Okay. Number six, Rand will get Rand will attack Ilion before the end of the book. Rand turned down the truce with Samael, which I think is leading towards the attack on Ilion. Once again, though, I don't know if the book's progressing fast enough for this to happen before the end of the book. I may have been overshooting these predictions. At the very least, I think Egwene or not Egwene, Elaine and Nynaeve won't make it to Ibudar before the end of the book, but I still have a few predictions there left unfilled, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about those next time and see if there's been any changes to that. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content, and if you'd like more, this is the second in a series of me talking about what I read through every week. Next week, I'll be talking about me finishing The Lord of Chaos, hopefully, assuming no sidetracks happen. And then I will let you guys vote on which book I read next. I have a few options that I'm thinking between that I'll put up in a poll. I hope you guys enjoy. Have a great day. Bye.